I have honestly never seen a company fumble the bag so hard like the WNBA fumbled Caitlin Clark.
A once-in-a-generation superstar walked into the WNBA holding the power to change everything. But instead of rising, the league collapsed into chaos. This isn't just a story about basketball. It's about arrogance, betrayal, and how one mistake with Caitlin Clark may haunt women's sports forever. For decades, the WNBA has chased relevance, struggling with modest TV ratings, underfilled arenas, sparse media coverage. It has yearned for a spark, for someone who could pull it into the mainstream, not gradually, but explosively. Then came Caitlin Clark. In college, she wasn't just good. She was transcendent. She shattered scoring records, hoisted Iowa to national attention, and brought girls' basketball into living rooms that barely noticed before. Her three-point bombs weren't just shots, they were statements. Social media clips of her 30-plus foot bombs went viral, kids mimicking her logo jumper, entire playgrounds lighting up at her name. The data backs it up. The 2023 NCAA Women's Basketball Championship game between LSU and Iowa pulled in 9.9 million viewers, making it the most viewed women's college basketball game ever on ESPN platforms. The Final Four weekend averaged 6.5 million viewers. Every stage of the tournament spiked double-digit increases over 2022. Clark carried more than a ball. She carried hope for women's sports. For basketball, for a league that had tried slogans, rebrands, bigger promotions. For the WNBA, Caitlin was the long-awaited revolution. And so everyone waited. Would the league see her? Would they elevate her? Could WNBA build around her? Because when she arrived, the expectations weren't just high. They were historic. April 2024, the WNBA draft. The moment had been brewing, counting the viewership numbers, counting NIL endorsements, counting viral highlights. Everyone knew who would go number one. When Indiana Fever selected Caitlin Clark first overall, the narrative was set. It was not just the pick of a player. It was the announcement of a movement. Her home opener sold out in minutes. Ticket resale markets exploded. Prices jumped, 200% or more in many cases. Fans who had never watched a WNBA game before bought tickets simply because she was there. The Fever had become destination, not just team. Television responded too. The Fever's games averaged viewerships that smashed records. ESPN and associated networks saw ratings spikes. Clark's debut games were among the most watched in years. While I don't have exact numbers for every game, reports said these were record-breaking views for WNBA games since the early 2000s. In many respects, her arrival accomplished more in a few weeks than years of marketing had. What's more striking, all the marketing, budget, and slog the WNBA had put in over decades arguably had less effect than one player's presence. For years, the league had sewed together campaigns trying to make stars, trying to elevate teams, trying to grow viewership. Caitlin Clark came in and made everything happen. Lights, cameras, merch, social media feeding clips, the narrative. Reporters talked about her everywhere. And fans who had dismissed the WNBA or considered it secondary started paying attention. It felt for a moment like a coronation, not just of an athlete, but of women's basketball as it finally looked like it might break through. But then, the cracks. The contract. When Clark was drafted, she was given a 4-year, $330 ETH, $56 total contract with Indiana Fever, averaging roughly $84,500 per year. In 2024, she made about $76,535. In 2025, around $78,000. Compare that to what male stars earn, or even to what the NBA gives its top draft picks. The numbers are orders of magnitude apart, and even within the WNBA, this is near rookie minimum. Clark's economic impact, her ability to draw eyes, tickets, merch, fans, it exceeded what her paycheck reflected. Brands saw it. Nike, Gatorade, Wilson, State Farm, others lined up with endorsement deals. Her NIL earnings while at Iowa were estimated at around $3.4 million, making her one of the highest-earning college athletes in NIL history. Her shoes sold out, her signature, her image. She was monetizing what the league was barely acknowledging. The disrespect wasn't just about money. It was about what her contract said about how the league values its stars, its future. It said, "You are a rookie, you are replaceable, your greatness is tolerated but not rewarded." And that message stung. To fans, to her, to everyone watching. Because the rise had been so meteoric, so bright, and yet the reward was so modest. So small in comparison to the cultural force she had become. With the visibility, with the hype, came scrutiny and opposition. Caitlin Clark became a target, on the court, in ways more physical and more ugly than simply good defense. Opponents laid into her with hard fouls, with hip checks, off-ball hits, physical aggression that strained her body. She was fouled at a high rate. While exact league-wide comparative numbers vary, reports show she was among the league leaders in fouls drawn per game. She carried more burdens than just scoring, more burdens than just expectation. Yet, referees often swallowed whistles. Many felt the officiating was inconsistent when it came to protecting her. Cheap hits, borderline fouls, sometimes way past that, seemed to be tolerated. The league, publicly, rarely stepped in. No notable or consistent suspensions. No strong statements. One moment of controversy stirred widespread outcry. Rumors of a racial slur from Brittany Griner directed at Clark during a game. Lip readers, viewers, fans debated. Yet, no investigation or official resolution was publicized. Important note, much of this remains unconfirmed in strict legal or league rulings, but public perception and anger were real. The effect was cumulative. Every collision, every ignored foul, every piece of physical trash that lands when no one's watching, they add up. Bodies break. Trust erodes. Confidence falters. Clark showed up night after night, competing through pain, through provocation, through neglect. Meanwhile, the league enjoyed her star power, the sellouts, the ratings, the attention, but didn't seem to shield her when it mattered most. Didn't protect her legacy, didn't protect her health. Then came September 5th, 2025. The announcement, Caitlin Clark was officially ruled out for the remainder of the WNBA season due to a right groin injury. Her body had been pushed. Cumulative damage found a breaking point. What many thought might be bad luck or just the wear of a tough sport was now seen by many as consequence. Consequence of neglect. Consequence of the league failing to protect its brightest. Fans reacted immediately. Social media exploded with "Protect Clark." Commentators questioned whether any other player in the WNBA would be allowed to be battered in the way she had. Analysts talked about packing stadiums but letting stars fight their own battles. Viewership momentum dipped. Conversations that had been rising about Clark's worth dropped into the realm of crisis for the league. Financially, the Fever felt the impact. Ticket sales began to wane without her in the lineup. National broadcasts lost some pull. Sponsors backed away from absent star matchups. The narrative started shifting, from Clark being the hope to her being the evidence of what goes wrong when a league doesn't back its own. On top of it, this injury laid bare the contradiction. WNBA had benefited from Clark's rise more than almost any single individual. But when she needed protection, they were slow to respond, slow to show empathy, slow to visibly enforce discipline, slow to make changes. The injury wasn't just physical, it was symbolic. It exposed what many already felt. This league had built an empire on her, but didn't build a fortress to protect her. Because where there is value, there are rivals. Where there is neglect, there are those who see opportunity. Outside the WNBA, leagues and entrepreneurs circled. In reports, the unrivaled league, a brand new 3x3 women's format, began to offer players much higher average pay, reportedly more than $220,000 per player, plus equity stake in the league. By G3, the 3-on-3 league, co-founded by Ice Cube, publicly floated deals for Clark as high as $10 million over 2 years, or potentially more when evaluating merch, ownership percentage, brand opportunities. That's not 10x or 20x compared to her WNBA contract. It's orders of magnitude higher. Think WNBA deal total, 338,056 saders over 4 years, with year-by-year figures climbing slowly. Unrivaled and by G3 offers 6 or sometimes 7-figure sums for short stretches. For Clark, this isn't hypothetical. These are real offers, real alternatives. The shift is important. These offers don't just pay more. They treat Clark as partner, not commodity. They include ownership stakes, profits, visibility outside just game days. They recognize that when Clark moves, her fans, her brand, her clout move with her. This is the beginning of a power shift. For decades, leagues held all levers: contracts, scheduling, promotion. Now, a star with Clark's cultural footprint holds real levers. She can negotiate media deals. She can demand safety. She can insist on respect. This is where the narrative turns. Clark is no longer just a rising star hoping the system will catch up. She holds the power of negotiation. Every new offer, every alternative league, every sponsored deal becomes a benchmark. The WNBA, the Indiana Fever, and all of the stakeholders have to compete not just on basketball ability, but on treatment, protection, pay, voice. No longer is she beholden to rookie norm. No longer is she silently grateful for just being in the league. Instead, her leverage is real. Her agency, her endorsement, her brand give her both means and voice. Even that $10 million plus offer from Ice Cube's Big G3 isn't just money. It's a public yardstick. It's proof to fans, to media, to the WNBA itself. Here's her marketplace value. Not what she agrees to, but what the world offers her. And that changes the game. Her demands now are not just give me more. They are structural, pay that reflects visibility, policies that protect stars physically and mentally, contracts that respect brand value, governance that listen. Her reputation, her story, her journey become leverage in themselves. Every headline, every endorsement, every viral clip becomes evidence in her favor. The WNBA may have been able to ignore the quiet years. It cannot ignore her now, and here's the kicker. The numbers back her up. Clark's rookie season boosted WNBA attendance by 67%, according to Forbes, the largest single-year jump in league history. National broadcasts featuring her drew over 2.1 million average viewers, shattering modern WNBA ratings records and rivaling mid-tier NBA playoff games. Merchandise sales exploded, too. Fanatics reported her Fever jersey became the top-selling WNBA jersey of all time within weeks of her debut. These are not small bumps. These are seismic shifts. Endorsements reinforce the story. Nike gave Clark a signature shoe deal reportedly worth $28 million over 8 years, a deal bigger than most veteran NBA contracts. State Farm and Gatorade launched national campaigns centered on her, proving that brands were more willing to market Caitlin Clark as the face of basketball than the WNBA itself was. In short, Clark is no longer fighting for a seat at the table. She is the table. She commands a market that proves her worth, independent of the league's structures. The irony is stark. The WNBA needs Caitlin Clark more than Caitlin Clark needs the WNBA. And that imbalance of power is her ultimate revenge. So, where does this go from here? 2 paths lay ahead. In one, Caitlin Clark stays in the WNBA. She leverages her unmatched platform to force real reform from within. The pay structure, which currently caps rookie salaries under $85,000 per year, could be reshaped by the collective pressure she brings. Already, her presence has driven record-breaking television ratings. ABC's 2024 regular season broadcast of Fever vs. Sky drew 2.3 million viewers, the most-watched WNBA game in over 2 decades. SportsMediaWatch.com. Those numbers matter. They are bargaining chips. If she stays, she will not just play, she will negotiate on behalf of all women athletes, demanding contracts and conditions that reflect these realities. She could become what Billie Jean King was for tennis, a player whose individual greatness redefined the economics of her sport. Imagine Clark pushing for revenue sharing, charter flights for player health, and league investment in marketing stars properly. The infrastructure she forces into existence could mean that the next Caitlin Clark doesn't just break records, she thrives in a league that values her appropriately. But the other scenario is more disruptive. If Clark leaves, the ripple effects would be seismic. Sponsors like Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm didn't line up for the WNBA. They lined up for her. If she takes her brand power to the Big Three or to the new unrivaled league where players are promised equity ownership and six-figure base pay, those dollars and cameras follow her. Broadcasters who fought to carry Fever games would suddenly bid for her new stage. The WNBA, with average game attendance hovering around 6,500 fans in 2024, sportsbusinessjournal.com, could collapse back into obscurity if she's no longer its anchor. Either way, Clark's influence is undeniable. She has already rewritten records with over 3,900 career NCAA points, the most in Division I history, men's or women's. She has already shifted culture, drawing millions who never watched women's basketball before. If change does not come, history will remember not only her achievements, but the WNBA's failure to seize its greatest opportunity. The WNBA thought they owned Caitlin Clark, but the truth is, Caitlin Clark owns the future of basketball, and whichever path she chooses will define the sport for the next 20 years. Caitlin Clark's story is bigger than basketball. It is the story of an athlete who came to symbolize possibility, change, and revolution in a sport that had been waiting decades for its breakthrough moment. From her dazzling days at Iowa, raining logo threes and shattering viewership records, to her arrival in the WNBA where ticket sales, ratings, and merchandise exploded overnight, she proved that women's basketball could not just compete with the men's game, it could capture the culture. But this golden opportunity carried shadows. The rookie contract worth less than 6 figures per year, the physical pounding she absorbed on the court without consistent protection, the whispers of neglect from the very league that depended on her. Her groin injury in September 2025 wasn't just a physical setback, it became the symbol of a league that failed to protect its brightest star. Fans responded with outrage, sponsors took note, and suddenly the conversation wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about value, equity, and respect. The shift came when rivals, billionaires, and alternative leagues entered the frame. Ice Cube's Big Three dangled 10 meters. The unrivaled league promised 6-figure salaries plus equity stakes. Brands like Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm put more money and faith in Clark than the WNBA ever had. Suddenly, the leverage was hers. She didn't have to beg for recognition anymore. The market had spoken, and it screamed her value louder than any scoreboard ever could. And now, the WNBA finds itself at a crossroads. In one future, Clark stays. She uses her power not just to play, but to demand. Demand protection for players. Demand salaries that reflect the draw they bring. Demand a league structure that finally treats women's basketball like the cultural force it can be. If the WNBA bends, reforms, and evolves around her, then Clark will not only be remembered as a great scorer or exciting star, she will be remembered as the woman who transformed the league itself. But in the other future, she leaves. Maybe for a rival league that pays her what she's worth. Maybe for a hybrid career blending basketball, media, and business. And if she leaves, she won't leave alone. Fans, sponsors, broadcasters, the energy and attention that she created will go with her. The WNBA, for all its history, could fade once more into the shadows of underfunded leagues, remembered as the place that had Caitlin Clark, and lost her. Whichever path she chooses, one thing is certain, Caitlin Clark has already changed women's sports forever. She is proof that greatness cannot be ignored, that audiences will show up if you give them a star worth watching, and that respect is not just earned, it must be demanded. The WNBA thought it owned Caitlin Clark, but as history will show, Caitlin Clark owns the future of basketball. If you found this story powerful, don't just leave it here. Let's keep the conversation alive. Drop a comment. Do you think Caitlin should stay in the WNBA or take her talents elsewhere? Hit the like button if you believe she deserves better. Share this with someone who loves basketball, because this isn't just about women's sports. It's about fairness, respect, and change. And of course, subscribe for more deep dive stories like this one, because Caitlin Clark's journey isn't over, and neither is ours.